By the way, if I go into politics here, when I think, why the hatred of Israel and the Muslims, I talk about this many times. The fact of Israel's existence is a cause of shame in the Arab Islamic mind. There's a lot more to be said, but one of the core reasons for the conflict is in the Islamic narrative. They go back to the 8th, 9th, 10th centuries of Islamic hegemony over the Middle East. The highest culture of the time, in every way you could measure a culture, Islamic culture was at its peak. And that narrative has never left, by the way, that mythic image of the reestablishment of the caliphate, the reestablishment of the pan-Islamic world power. And they look at Israel, and if you look at kind of Muslim writings, they say Israel even looks like a dagger. It's a dagger into the heart of Islam. And if we could just get rid of that, we would all feel better. Now, the fact, if you say to a Muslim, if you look at the amount of Muslims who have died in the past 30 years, 99.9% has been at the hand of other Muslims, right? Not Americans, not Israelis. It doesn't matter. What matters is the myth. And the myth is, if Israel would go away, we would feel better. And for the radicals, you cannot budge them from that myth. They're attached to it. Because to deal with the decline of Islamic culture, to deal with political mistakes, cultural mistakes, to deal with the corruption and the illiteracy and the dysfunctionality, that's so hard for a society or an individual to deal with. It's so easy to hate another. So when I think of the deeper dimension of these two narratives, Molten Calf and The Spies, and thinking about all the work I've done with myself and many other people, my insight is, at that moment, what they did is the only thing that made sense. Just like with us. If you find yourself terribly angry, fight or flight, condemning another person, if you find yourself in that situation, the world is just black and white, and we know the world is not that way. If you ever are there, it's probably because the pressure is so great you can't see anything else. So then what is the growth? The growth, of course, is insight to oneself, insight to other people, insight to a situation, opening up the horizon of possible things to do. And if you have the time for this, some kind of balanced, judicious way, ask yourself, what's the best version of myself in the future, and how do I get there? As opposed to a simple pressure response. So Tisha B'Av looms ahead as what happens if we don't do that inner work. And of course, I think what these two dates and this 3-week period ask us to do is revisit our past, think about our future. And for many of us, we're out of danger. But even if you're out of danger, we can always live our lives at a higher level. Maybe you can be that person that when you see somebody else on the edge of the cliff, you're the one who can go over to them and say, you don't have to go there. Maybe you can guide them in a different way. So for ourselves and for those whom we love, people around us, it's a very important time for this kind of detailed, relentless work.